Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. Now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. So this past Thursday, a little movie came out. A little movie I've been waiting for a decade. A lot of us have been waiting for 10 years to get this sequel to a movie that came out in 2009 that just kind of grabbed everybody's attention, surprised everybody in the best way possible, right smack dab in the middle of zombie fever. So now 10 years removed, with that zombie fever dying down a little bit, could the sequel recapture that imagination and wonder that they were able to capture in the first one? And let me tell you, for the most part, they sure do. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Zombieland Double Tap. That's right. 10 years in the making to get to a sequel for Zombieland. 10 years ago, back in 2009, when the first one came out, I remember getting all jacked up about it because of the cast, right? We were in the smack dab in the middle of like this huge zombie phenomenon where zombies were just everywhere. And with The Walking Dead, zombies are still pretty prevalent today, but that burst of zombies literally being in everything has died down. And the thing about the first Zombieland for me was that it was kind of a surprise. I was there for the cast. I mean, when you hear Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin, who, even though she was like 12 back then, was like at the peak point of her like child acting career. She was crushing it. It was one of the best elements of that movie. And that was what you bought into. And then you got this like surprising little zombie movie that like had all this fun action and really, really great comedy and a storyline that was simplistic and worked in just telling like a one-off story in the course of this massive post-zombie apocalypse. The fear was something like a sequel to a movie like that is, would it get too big? Would it try to do things that don't feel like Zombieland? And when you have a decade to kind of mull over those things, you'd think that it would be huge, but it's not. This is, again, another small kind of story built into this big world that I think plays really, really well and once again lends itself to wonderful character performances that make this thing a gem. And of all those character performances, it should be no shock that Woody Harrelson is my favorite. What they do with his character Tallahassee in this movie is great. He gets easily the most play as far as like things that are going on, whether it be from like his like pseudo father relationship with Abigail Breslin's Little Rock, and how her storyline kind of creates a lot of the same conundrums for Harrelson's character, but the fact that like he has to deal with like she's an adult now. She's not a little girl. So I love seeing like that stuff get played. And then, I mean, Woody is just the most charming, charismatic, funny person that you could inject into a movie like this. I mean, the minute he gets to the White House and throws his boots up on the Oval Office desk, you're just like, this guy. It's like that shot just sums up everything he is as Tallahassee. And then build in that they went down a plot line that was just very specific to real life Woody Harrelson love. Woody is a big Elvis fan, and Elvis has something to do in the movie as far as like a place they're trying to get to, and then things that kind of happen kind of all spurn out of that area. And Woody is on fire the entire time. He's so freaking funny, and the little elements that they kind of kick in there that are Elvis related, they play really, really well when you know that this is like stuff that Woody really likes. So all that stuff works really well, and as always, Tallahassee is my favorite in these Zombieland movies. Right next up to him, though, is Columbus, played by Jesse Eisenberg. And, he is our lead character, so to speak. He's our narrator. He's the one who kind of fills us in, told us all about Zombieland back in 2009. He, again, is the person who'll tell you about Zombieland in 2019 and what's different. And what's cool is the movie has, a feel of a natural progression of evolution. Where, like, we get zombies back in 2009. Well, zombies in 2019 are not the same. They've evolved. They've changed. They've adapted to things that are going on. And we have all these different classifications, which Eisenberg wonderfully lays in and kind of tells us about throughout the movie as we get all those cool, animations and word graphics that pop up as he tells us either new rules that he has or what these zombies are. And there is one particular zombie that's new that they kind of run into a lot in the movie. And that's one of those things that I think plays really well. It works with the comedy and why they call it what they call it. And it's one of those things where it's like if you're in this culture of nerddom that the zombies have now kind of fallen into, you get to play with a lot of fun stuff like that. And we also get to build on Columbus's relationship with Wichita, where it is now 10 years later, and where he wants to go versus where Wichita wants to go. And that relationship allows us to feel a lot of the same things and see a lot of the same things that we saw in the first movie, but in different ways. So there are plot things that are like, oh, I like that they did this, but now it's different. And that relationship between Eisenberg and Stone is just so good. And Emma Stone, I love her in small things like this, man. Like, yes, she's an Oscar winner. She does all these big movies. And you could almost say that Emma Stone might be too big compared to everybody else in this movie. Yet she comes back and has a ton of fun. And I love watching the banter between her and Eisenberg. I love watching the banter between her and Abigail Breslin. And it's one of those things that, like, this movie cannot work without Wichita and Little Rock. And while maybe Emma Stone had gotten too big for this movie and said no, and you could have done all right, we'll follow Tallahassee and Columbus. It's not going to work without the whole group. And Stone is buying in. She's not just there for a paycheck. You can tell she's having fun. She wants to be there, and she's adding everything that she added the first time around here. And again, like the comedy, the play between her and Jesse Eisenberg, and also the play between her and one of the new characters that was introduced, is so wonderful that you sit there and you just enjoy all the moments that are happening on screen. And Abigail Breslin's Little Rock, unfortunately here, she was probably one of my favorite characters in the first Zombieland. She kind of gets sidelined a little bit in this movie. She's more of a plot device that kind of drives the A storyline for Harrelson, Eisenberg, and Stone. And her kind of BC plot, it's funny. She's kind of riding around with this hippie stoner named Berkeley, played by Avon Jogia, and there are really wonderful moments for them, but her role is a bit reduced, and like I said, kind of more to the side from our main core. So for me, that was probably my biggest issue with the movie, because I loved Little Rock so much in the first one. The fact that this little girl is running around and then doing very adult things. And yes, they play into, like I said, that relationship with her and Woody, and how, he has to adjust that. Like, she's not a little girl anymore. She's 22 years old. And I like that relationship a lot, but it would have been nicer, I think, to have her more involved with the main group the whole movie. But like I said, her storyline leads us to where they're going and all the different characters we run into. And there are a bunch of new characters here. Lots of fun cameos from people like Rosario Dawson, Luke Wilson, Thomas Middleditch. They all have wonderful little cameo spots where they pop up, and it's funny. I mean, Wilson and Middleditch, which we've seen in the trailers, play Albuquerque and Flagstaff, and they're like the doppelgangers of Tallahassee and Columbus, and they play on that stuff, and that whole sequence is a lot of fun. And all of them, I mean, where Rosario falls in line to the story and how she kind of plays into the Elvis bit, and where she comes in, all of the people that are added into the movie as additional characters add a lot to it. The person who adds the most, though, the surprise of the movie, maybe the best role in the movie, Zoe Deutsch. Oh my goodness. She comes in as Madison and is wonderful. It's a girl who's locked herself in a freezer in one of the mall stores or restaurants, and that's where she's been living because zombies don't come into the cold. And she is the prototypical blonde ditz, but plays it in a way that just constantly makes you laugh and smile, and the way that she can be more clever than she puts on, but also at the same time be as dumb as you think she is. She's just wonderful. She eats the screen alive, man. She chews on all the scenery. Every moment they give her in the movie works. It adds so much that it was like, maybe my favorite character in the entire movie was Zoe Deutsch's Madison. She's funny, she's electric, and it's one of those things that, like, when you have all these new characters and people popping in, you're hanging out with your old friends, injecting somebody new that injects this much life into the movie is, I think, the massive win for Zombieland Double Tap. it plays so well, specifically because of Madison and what she adds to the story and to the group. And she was absolutely wonderful. And like I said, everybody that pops in here plays really well. And it all works very similarly, like where we were kind of working our way toward the carnival in the first one, we're working our way to a different place in this one. And that whole sequence and then the finale is a lot of fun, man. The action is fun, the comedy is fun, and there's one cameo in the movie that I will not spoil, but let's just say do not leave the theater until all of the credits are over and all of the sequences are over, because there's a couple surprises in here for you that if you were a fan of the first one, you're gonna just love. I can't talk about it, but it's so good. It's a lot of fun. It's certainly a nice fan service moment and certainly plays into the character really, really well. So for me, Zombieland Double Tap is a pretty slam dunk awesome sequel. Yes, I would have liked a little bit more Abigail Breslin. I would have liked her character Little Rock to be more involved with our main three. But for the most part, man, you're gonna just sit back and enjoy Zombieland Double Tap, man. It's extremely funny. The action is great. I love the way that Ruben Fleischer utilizes slow-mo and works the camera and these big scenery shots as you kind of get the sense of the characters traveling across a barren country that's just filled with zombies and very few humans, and ultimately serves quite well as a follow-up to Zombieland from 2009. And, again, one of those things that's tricky. 10 years, it's a big gap. Hard to kind of come and hit that expectation level that you have. And fortunately for Zombieland, it kind of flew under the radar, so that when 2 was announced, everyone just got super excited, and you should be, because the movie's a lot of fun. So there you go, man. Those are all my spoiler-free thoughts about Zombieland Double Tap. Now I want to know what you're thinking, man. Were you a big fan of the first Zombieland back in 2009? Have you been patiently waiting and hoping that they would do a second one, and now that it's here, have you gone and seen it? Did you enjoy it? Did it do the things you wanted it to? What were your favorite things? Was it the humor? Was it the action? Which character were you liking? Or did this movie just not work for you? Was it too small? Did you think it was going to be bigger? Did you want something different? Did you just want to live with just Zombieland and not have a sequel? Anything you're thinking about this movie goes down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man as we talk movies, watch trailers, hang out, have some fun, over there, man. Go hit that subscribe button, the little bell that follows, so you get alerts every time I make a new video. For the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I'm the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Well, you guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.